Hey everyone, it's Holly. I'm a registered nurse and a board certified holistic nurse, and I have started the Holistic Nurse Academy podcast. And before we start this conversation today, I just want to invite everyone to listen with an open mind and hear what is really going on in this conversation and what needs to change, because the intention of this conversation is to make change for the better in the healthcare world as a patient, the patient experience, and inviting practitioners to hear what patients are saying about their experience. And we're having a lot of mistrust for traditional type of Western medicine, and we're starting to feel that chasm grow. And I just really believe that we can all work together. We can rebuild trust with just some slight tweaks of how we, not just some slight tweaks, but starting with some slight tweaks of just how we hold conversation, how we present ourselves to the people in front of us, and realizing that first and foremost, they're a human being. First and foremost, they have a life that is now being impacted by whatever situation they're in, and how we can hold space for that and create trust. So that is the goal and intention of today, not to point fingers, not to blame, but to show how we can start having a different conversation and how we can do it differently, because I believe that we can, and when we know better, we do better. Thanks. Hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, and welcome to the Holistic Nurse Academy, where we are bridging the gap between Eastern and Western medicine. I'm with Cori Sartori today, and I'm excited to have our conversation, which is a little different than what I've been having with my guests, but this is a very needed conversation, and I'm excited to hold space for more of these conversations because I think they need to be had. So hello, Cori. So good to see you. Before we dive in, a couple of things. I just want to remind people to please like and subscribe, share the word with people about the conversation we're having. To my knowledge, nobody else is having the conversation about bridging the gap. And I just really think this is an important conversation. So just to get to know Cori a little bit, Cori is an award-nominated life coach, best-selling author, speaker, yoga teacher, and breast cancer survivor who helps women create lives they actually love living. Her personal journey through adversity, healing, motherhood, and growth shape the work she does today, helping women build confidence, create clarity, strengthen relationships, and step into the next version of themselves. Alongside her husband, Jake, she is the co-owner of SLC Life Coaching, where you can find them at is slclifecoaching.com, where they help clients create lasting transformation through mindset, habits, accountability, and intentional action. Cori is known for her direct, grounded approach that blends deep self-development with real-life results. I love that. I love grounded approaches. So
Yeah.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you
We
so
need
much.
grounded. So tell us a little bit about you and your journey. Today we're talking about bridging the gap between Eastern and Western medicine, but for you, it's your own personal healing journey, right?
Yeah.
With a
Yeah.
health issue you had that I'll let you tell the audience, but let's just kind of start that path.
Okay, well, let me start by starting with my journey of transformation. So,
Okay.
in 2013, I moved back from living in the Bay Area. I'd been living there for a few years, so I moved back to Salt Lake City. And I was just in this place of coming out of a really toxic codependent relationship. I was using alcohol to numb and just was unhappy. And then I found self-development when I moved back to Salt Lake City. I'm so grateful for the friends and the community and the people that were like, learn this, try this on, and it changed my life. And through that journey, from about 2013 to 2016, I learned so much around self-development, and I started learning about health and wellness. And I, in 2016, went on this magical trip to Japan and I had a Reiki experience. I knew about Reiki, and then I had it with this Japanese woman who didn't speak any English, and I didn't speak any Japanese, but
Oh my
my
gosh.
sister-in-law spoke Japanese, and so she translated, and it was just, it changed, it changed so many things for me. I came back to the States after that trip, and I quit my full-time job, and I started life coaching. I got my life coach certification. I got Reiki certified. I really started diving into the wellness world. My business it is originally called, it's Mars Holistic Wellness. I deviated to SLC Life Coaching because that's more of what I do. But when I first started my business in 2016, 10 years ago, I really was bringing holistic wellness, yoga. I've been a yoga teacher for a decade. And so I was bringing all those things together.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And started working another job and still coached for years. And then in 2021, after the pandemic, like, I was busy, right?
Yeah.
After 2020, people were like, we need a life coach. And so I quit my job, and I loved my job at this point. I just knew that my purpose was to be a life coach. I just know that's what I'm supposed to do full time and be home with my family more. And I quit my full-time job in February of 2021. I was so excited.
Mm-hmm.
And then a month later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so everything that I thought I was going to create that year kind of fell apart really quickly, because now I had this huge, scary diagnosis that I had to deal with.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my gosh. So, okay, so what year was that again?
2021.
21.
So at this point, I'd been life coaching for 5 years.
Okay.
And when I was diagnosed, I was like, I'm a yoga teacher and I'm a life coach. And like, how is this happening to me? I'm doing all the right things. I was eating healthy. The way that I took care of myself, it was such a, I would say, holistic approach to living.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that caused this situation, or maybe progressed it, is I was trying to have my second child.
Mm-hmm.
And it was over a year of trying to get pregnant, and then I went to a fertility doctor, and they gave me estrogen and progesterone.
Okay.
And a week later, I found a lump.
Oh wow.
So it happened quick. And my cancer was, I think, 80% estrogen positive, 5% progesterone.
Oh wow. So when you got the diagnosis, let's walk through the patient experience for you.
Okay.
So you saw an oncologist.
Yeah. So when I found my lump, I had an appointment scheduled that week to see my fertility doctor. So I didn't do anything immediately. I waited, and then when I was there that Wednesday, it was probably a couple days later, I told them about the lump. They checked it, and then a week later, I was in getting a mammogram, and then everything kind of started going. That waiting period of mammograms and biopsies to getting a diagnosis was hell.
Yeah.
To be quite honest.
And then, do you remember what the waiting period was?
I believe they moved me through really quickly because I had just taken estrogen and progesterone.
Okay.
So I found my lump. It was probably a week and a half later. I did a mammogram, if that, and then I did a biopsy probably a week after that.
Okay.
And then I waited about 4 days to get the diagnosis. They called me.
Okay.
It was March 18th of 2021. They called me with the diagnosis. And it was very much, I went to first meet with a surgeon to talk about options and what my cancer was. And then I met with my oncologist after that.
Okay.
And it was very much, these are your options of, you can do a lumpectomy, but if you do a lumpectomy, you have to do radiation. Well, actually, I don't even think they told me that at that time. They told me I could do a lumpectomy.
Okay.
They told me I could do a mastectomy. I needed to do chemo. They wanted me to do radiation. And I was very resistant to all of it because I was like, no way am I going to put that toxic stuff into my body. There's no way. There has to be other options. And so I resisted for a long time. Plus, we were trying to have a second kid. Was not going to put all of that toxic stuff into my body trying to have a second child. And so I felt like my oncologist kept coming back to the chemo, even though I was very resistant. Like, one of the things that they said to me was, my son had just turned 3. A week before I was diagnosed, my son turned 3. And my oncologist said to me, well, don't you want to be there to watch your kid graduate high school? And so, I mean, it got me, right? It got me to think like, oh my gosh, it got me to be like, okay, maybe I will do chemo. But that was just one of the first comments that I started to realize, like, oh, this kind of feels like a way to manipulate me into doing what you want me to do rather than letting me make the decision on my own.
So what was the conversation? How many conversations did you have with your oncologist, would you say? Was it 1 or 2?
Let's see, probably, I would say 2 to 4. So I had that original, consultation about what we were going to do. And that was, that very end of March. And I kept resisting. Went back a lot, asking a lot of questions because I was like, well, I want to know more. And I would say it was probably the 3rd or 4th visit where I said, okay, I feel like I should do a lumpectomy.
Okay.
And they said to me, okay, that's fine, but you're going to have to do radiation. Then you'll do radiation after that. And I was like, no, you didn't tell me I would have to do radiation with a lumpectomy. Wait, so I had
the whole
yeah. So I had this decision where I was going to do a lumpectomy and then I was going to move on with my life. And they were like, no, if you do that, then you have to do this. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I have zero desire to do that. My cancer was on my left side. And so if you do radiation on your left side, when you go in, you have to hold your breath to pull your heart back. Okay. So the radiation doesn't damage your heart. Okay. No, thank you. Like, that to me is scary. Yeah. That's maybe, but it's like, for sure your body is going to be consumed with its toxic radiation. Okay. So that conversation happened. I just said no. So what I did in the meantime, I had reached out to a holistic doctor, and the same day I had a conversation with a holistic doctor was the same day that I had gone back for another appointment with my oncologist to have her talk to me about chemo and what that would look like. And they said, I have to do something. You have to make a decision now. You have to hurry up and make a decision because your cancer's growing. You have to make a decision. Now I'm like, well, it probably was growing because you guys gave me estrogen and progesterone, like looking, well, it was 80% estrogen and 5% progesterone. There's something there. So, I finally got on the call with a holistic doctor, talked to my oncologist about chemo. And so the same day my doctor said, okay, if you do chemo, we'll just do 2 medicines and then we'll do 4 rounds. And I was like, okay. And then I got on a call with the holistic doctor, and it kind of, at the end of it made me feel like with a holistic doctor that there was a chance I could still have cancer in a year from then. And I was like, I am ready to wrap this up and move on. Yeah. So I sat with my intuition and I sat with, my gut, and I just sat there and felt like, okay, what's the choice that I should make in this time? And I felt like, okay, I can do the 4 rounds of chemo and then I'll be done. So I ended up making that decision to do the 4 rounds of chemo. And before I started chemo, I actually did a round of IVF to save some embryos to have a child after. And like the week that I got a call, it was a week after I pulled all my eggs out and we did the embryos. A week later, they called me and told me all the embryos died. Oh. So I didn't have anything. Then 2 days later, on my birthday, my oncologist called me and said, we looked at your MRI and there's another tumor. I took your case to the tumor board and they want you to do 6 months of chemo with a port with 3 different medicines. And I got off the phone with her. I called her back probably 5 minutes later and I said, I'm not doing that. No, I don't need to do that. Like, I knew, I trusted myself that that 4 rounds I committed to with the TC, I'll do that. I'm not getting a port. I'm not doing all of that. And to me, it was like, you're taking my case in front of a tumor board. They don't know me. They know nothing about me. Of course, all they're going to tell me to do is all of these chemicals and then have a mastectomy. Mm-hmm. So I did start chemo. I think it was like, honestly, it was May 21st of 2021. I did my first round of chemo on a Friday. Mm-hmm. And it sucked and it was awful and it was, such a horrible experience to go through. Your hair falls out. I got to the point where I would go to my chemo appointment. Before they even gave me the chemo, I was sick. Like, my body just knew what was coming. Yeah. So I did my 4 rounds of chemo, and then a month after that, I did choose to do a mastectomy on my left side. But when they went in to do my mastectomy, almost all my cancer was gone. And I believe it was not because of the chemo, but because during that time, I was doing a lot of holistic healing.
Oh, yeah. So to fill me in on what you decided to adjunct your chemo treatments with. So tell me a little bit about that.
So it's probably like maybe a week or 2 after I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was sitting in my bed feeling sorry for myself because,
Who wouldn't?
Right. And I was watching a documentary, Heal. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, Dr. Joe.
I've heard of it. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed. And I listened to a lot of Dr. Joe Dispenza stuff previously. I had read one of his books, and so I was familiar with who he was. And the documentary basically is like talking about how we can heal our own bodies, right? It's very holistic based. And I was like, well, if they can do it, so can I. And I'm so glad I had that mindset. Yeah. Because I think sometimes people are like, well, just because they did it doesn't mean I can. I was like, yeah, if they can do it, me too. Let's go. Yeah. Yeah. And so I started doing Reiki. I would do a Reiki every other week. I would go for about an hour and a half and have a Reiki session. And during that time, I would close my eyes and I would repeat this mantra, I am happy, healthy, healed, and whole. And I fully believed it, right? I would feel all the feelings. I would see in my mind's eye myself healed. And then on the other weeks that I wasn't doing Reiki, I would go to acupuncture. Yeah. And I would do that same thing of like when I'm lying on the table with all these needles in me, I'm repeating this mantra, I'm happy, healthy, healed, and whole. And I'm visualizing that I'm healthy. I'm visualizing in my mind's eye me cured and happy and enjoying time with my family. And then even when I would sit down and do my chemo appointments, mm-hmm. because it was intense. Like sitting in chemo, like it's not like you're just, I would sit there and because I was so anxious, my body was so overwhelmed, yeah. And I would close my eyes and I would imagine that the chemo was eating the tumors, that it was doing what it needed to do. Yeah. So I did a lot of visualization, a lot of meditation, a lot of self-belief that I was going to be okay. I also did things like I completely stopped eating meat, which I still don't eat meat to this day. I mean, unless maybe if you take me on a nice sushi date.
Is that because of potential hormone interest?
Yeah, because I ate a lot of chicken and eggs. And have you ever read the book How Not to Die?
No.
Okay,
But I do know. I do know like the concern about hormones being introduced into our food. Yes.
Well, and so what he talks about in that is like he'll give you a diagnosis. Like mine was breast cancer, so I can go to the breast cancer chapter, and it tells you like these are things that all can cause breast cancer. Mm-hmm. Alcohol, coffee. So I quit drinking coffee. I quit eating meat, eggs. I went pretty much plant-based during that time, and I'm still similar to that, but I allow myself sugar and treats.
Yeah. Yeah. You're a normal human being.
Yeah. So I did a lot of things. I was drinking alkaline water. I was doing a lot of healthy things for my body, for my mind, the Reiki, the acupuncture, meditation. I did all of those things because I didn't want to have cancer anymore, and I was not willing to do more chemo. And so after my mastectomy, when the doctor said like, oh my gosh, almost all of your cancer was gone, it was just specks, right? And they told me I had 2 tumors that were big, and they told me it was just specks. And they're like, the chemo worked. And I'm like, no. I know, and I have belief in myself that it was because of my mindset and what I believed. I'm sure the chemo helped a little bit, but I know that I healed that quickly because of my mindset and the Reiki and the acupuncture, and in those moments believing I was healed. I know that's what healed me. I think, maybe the chemo helped. And now looking back, I'm like, I probably didn't even need to do that mastectomy. But I was scared, right? And I think that's such a big part of it too, is like, so many people do exactly what the doctors say because they're scared and there's fear. And it's like, there's so many other options out there. And living into those options can be what saves your life, because all of chemo lives in your body forever. If I had chosen to do radiation, that could have caused me so many effects. And after I had my mastectomy, they told me to do radiation, even though there was no trace of cancer in my lymphs. There was nothing left in my body, right? They completely cut out all of my breast tissue in my left side, and they still told me I should do radiation. And I was, like, why? Why would I do radiation if there was not a single case that would show if I did it that would actually help things.
And what did they say when you asked why? Did they give you?
They said because there's still a chance it could come back. And I was like, well, yeah, if I sit and live in fear and have that thought in my mind that it's coming back, of course it's going to come back. Yeah. But I already believe that this is just something I had to go through, and now I'm moving on. And they sat there and told me, well, if my daughter had breast cancer, I would tell her to do the radiation. Yeah. And I'm just like, no. And talking to a lot of cancer survivors, they said that was the hardest part, was doing the radiation. Yeah. And and then, well, you're going to have to hold your breath and pull your heart away so it doesn't, cross your fingers, damage your heart.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to take the chance on damaging my heart.
Right. Yes, I have a lot to say, but before I do, also, the question keeps coming. Did you also stop taking your progesterone and estrogen, I would imagine?
So I had already stopped taking it, and anything else. I mean, it was for months they gave me different medicines to try to get me pregnant.
Yeah.
And then they gave me the estrogen and progesterone, and it, I know that definitely helps. So I quit taking that. And I'm not somebody who takes medication anyways. I'm not somebody who even takes really Tylenol, but I wanted that second baby so bad. I was just like, I'm willing to do anything. And, and then them saying to me, your tumor's still growing. Well, you gave me a bunch of IVF medication. What do you think that's doing to my body?
Right.
And it didn't work out.
So, was there any conversation about withdrawing that first and seeing what happened? I'm just curious for my own.
Withdrawing the eggs?
No, sorry, the estrogen and progesterone, withdrawing that, just to see how your body responded?
No.
There was no conversation. Okay. Interesting. Okay.
No. And it was very much no responsibility around them giving me that. Right? Yeah. It was just oh, well, you didn't get cancer because of that. Okay, well then why is my cancer 80% estrogen and 5% progesterone?
It felt correlated.
And that lump was not there before I started taking it.
Yeah, it felt very correlated.
Yes, it felt very correlated.
Okay. Oh my goodness. So there's a lot to unpack here. So before we get into any of the unpacking, because this right now is just about you and you sharing your story. So the cancer is gone. They suggest radiation. You say that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Then what happens?
They want me to take tamoxifen.
Okay.
So
go on.
They wanted me to take tamoxifen for 5 years.
Okay.
I got one prescription. I took it for 2 days, and I never took it again. Because it made me so ornery. I wanted to murder my husband the first day. And I was like, this is not the person I want to be. I don't want to be somebody for the next 5 to 10 years that is ornery and frustrated and rude. Like it made me not be myself.
Yeah.
And I noticed it within the first 2 days. So I stopped taking it immediately.
Yeah.
And I never got it filled again. They did have me be on goserelin for about maybe 8 or 9 months after I did my IVF. They gave me goserelin, so that was something that I was on. They wanted me to be on that for years and years, and I, again, did it for, I think I did it for maybe 6 months, maybe 7, and I, again, stopped.
Okay.
I chose to not do that anymore.
Okay. And then was there any follow-up from there in that realm?
So, I still wanted to have a baby after I had all this cancer stuff.
Yeah.
It was the May after I started my chemo, so it was May of 2022. I went back to my fertility doctor and I said, what are the chances of me having another baby? They did all my blood work and they said, you have less than 5% chance. If you want to have another baby, you should probably do embryo adoption. And I was like, so I'll have to do more IVF and more medication. And they said yes. And I said, no way. There's no way I'm doing that.
Yeah.
I think healing myself from breast cancer in the way that I did, it made me believe that I could create a baby without all of this other stuff. And so, taking Dr. Joe Dispenza's advice, seeing your future and feeling the energy and feeling the feelings and visually seeing that, connecting to that. Like after my doctor said you have less than 5% chance, I immediately started doing meditations and manifesting. I could have easily said, oh, well, my doctor said I can't have another kid. I'm going to give up. But, I did with Kim, I'm like, well,
that's not how you're wired.
Yeah, so can I. And so I really leaned into that belief system that I was going to have another baby. And every night would lay down and imagine future me pregnant, holding I did all of it. And then 6 months later, I was pregnant. Wow. So to me, I'm like, holistic is where it's at, right? The self-belief. But it was, during this time, I still had to go to my oncologist. And I would meet with her, I want to say it was probably every 4 months. And I was 36 weeks pregnant with my miracle baby. Mm-hmm. And I had an appointment with my oncologist. And when I had my mastectomy, I only did my left breast. The reason being I wanted to have another child, right? I wanted to be able to breastfeed. And even if I only had one, then I was going to keep it. And so I did. So at that 36-week mark, my doctor says to me, my oncologist says to me, are you planning on breastfeeding? I'm just like, well, yeah, that's why I kept this one, Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, well, is there any way I can talk you out of it? I really want you to get back on your medication. Okay, first of all, I hadn't taken that medication. I quit that medication 2 days after taking it. It was the tamoxifen. She wanted me to get back on that. And the goserelin and all of these things. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, I saved my right breast so I could breastfeed my child. Yeah. And I think that conversation was when I was done and I never went back and saw her again. Because to me, that I wanted to have another child. That I wanted to breastfeed this child. Yes, you could have forgot. But for me to come in at 36 weeks pregnant and have you ask me to not breastfeed my child so you can then sell me some drugs, I was like, I'm done here. I do not feel...
Especially especially as practitioners, we are taught, and I'm actually taking a lot of breastfeeding class right now for my own education and what I'm doing with my clients.
Sure.
And we're taught breastfeeding is the number one thing we want people to be able to do if they can, with the best outcomes possible for the baby and the mom. And, there's so many. So, it just contradicts this whole narrative we're pushing on breastfeeding as well. So.
Yeah, it felt very yucky to me, and so I was done. And then actually another situation that happened not too long after, I think, was the final straw, because after I did have my son, a week after he was born, I felt like a lump up on my left side. So I had my mastectomy on my left side,
Okay.
but I felt a lump, and I was freaking. My son was a week old, and I was like, no. I was so scared. Right, I spiraled immediately. I called my doctor and tried to get them to get in. They couldn't get me in for 6 weeks. So for 6 weeks, I'm spiraling in this like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I finally get in, and I'm like, just do an ultrasound because I don't have breast tissue. They did an ultrasound. They made me do a mammogram, even though I was like, you can't even get to what are you doing?
Yeah.
It just felt like not honest. And then they made me do another biopsy. So I was like, what? And then they're like, oh no, it's fine. It's because you are breastfeeding. So I was honestly like, I went and saw my surgeon, the one who did my, she was my reconstruction surgeon. So I had an appointment with her probably a couple weeks after that. And I told her this, and she says to me, oh yeah, sometimes when they do a mastectomy, they don't get all the breast tissue. So when you start breastfeeding, that happens. Okay, how come my surgeon can tell me this in a quick conversation, and I had to go through a 6 weeks of mammogram, biopsy, ultrasound for you to say, oh, it's because you're breastfeeding? And my surgeon told me that answer in the first probably 2 minutes of me talking to her.
Right.
So again, that to me felt like you're just taking advantage of me. It doesn't feel like you care. It feels like you just want to make money. Yeah. And so that after that, I was like, I'm for sure done with you guys.
So all trust was broken at that point.
Totally. Yeah, all trust was broken. I'm just like, you don't actually care about my health and my well-being. I am just a paycheck to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a lot. That's a lot to like, and that all happened within how many years? A year? 2 years?
So I was diagnosed March 18th of 2021. My son was born August of, so it was about 2.5 years in all that time of different things, situations coming up, and just making me feel like I cannot trust the medical system at this point. I can trust myself.
Yeah.
And I believe like holistic practitioners, because that's where I feel like I've seen results, is when I take a holistic approach.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it doesn't, if somebody's cut, if we're hurt, I feel like yes, but now it's like if I have a medical diagnosis, I don't know how much I would trust anymore.
Okay. That's kind of what I want to I want to dive a little bit more into that, but first of all, thank you for sharing your story. One of the things that stands out is when you were telling your story is that you don't forget those dates. You have those dates memorized. It's very imprinted on your heart, soul, brain.
Yeah.
And as I'm sitting here, also just sitting in holding space for the story, is if a nurse or a doctor or any practitioner is listening right now, the point of this conversation here is to say, how could this have been done differently? What would have built the bridge to trust? What would have created the space for both worlds to exist and it be okay? Because what I hear on your practitioner's side is, and what I've seen a lot, is these are the facts that I know. These are the studies I've seen. This is the team that's also just as smart, and they have all this knowledge. But what took me too long in my own practice to realize is like, cool story, and I want that information, but I need to know you're in it with me first.
Yeah.
I need to know that I matter and how I feel about the situation matters first. Yeah. And kind of what you have laid out is not an uncommon story at all. I've heard this story many times in many different settings. And so the question is, why?
Yeah.
Like, there's this, what I've heard, because you and I actually have this thing in common, which we didn't know we had in common. Some of where you received some of these treatments that you were adjuncting your chemo with was at Survivor Wellness,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And you weren't there at the time, but soon after you received treatments, I started volunteering there as a Survivor Wellness volunteer, offering those kinds of integrative modalities as a
Yeah.
craniosacral therapist, for free, for people going through chemo. But this common story of the urgency to make decisions,
Yeah.
and while I understand that from a medical perspective, like time is of the essence, was I've learned in my own life is that something that big is worth thinking about, is worth
Yeah.
holding space for, giving it time if that's what you need. Like, not all of us are actors and responders in a crisis. Some of us freeze, some of us flight, So
Yeah.
if what we need is space, like, let's give respect to the need for that, even if medically we know that time is of the essence.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to like back up, like, let's roll a take back, and let's pretend you had a better scenario.
Sure.
What would have turned this into a better experience for you with your practitioner who was talking about chemo and radiation? What was the turning, or what would have been one of the turning points? Because I know when your exact "I'm done," we just talked
Yeah.
about your exact "I am done."
Yeah.
But what could have been handled differently so that you felt like you were working with someone, not being told what to do? Like, if you could tell any nurse, doctor, medical professional, this is what I needed at that time.
Yeah. I think it really would have just been holding space instead of making it be like, you have to do this and this and this, and it's such an urgent thing. Like, letting me sit with it and resonate it. Like, getting a cancer diagnosis is overwhelming
Huge, yeah.
because your mind starts like, what if, what if, what if, what if? And like, my son had just turned 3 years old. He was little,
Yeah.
and there's so much decisions to be made and so much to think about that it is overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I was given space to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
It was felt very rushed. Like, you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision. And it felt that way because it was like, we want you to do what we want you to do.
Yeah.
Even though, there was the options given, like, to go to Survivor Wellness. I was like, that is what I was digging into, and that is what I was trying to work through. And then they would call me and say, we need you to make a decision. Like, it just felt like I'm trying to heal in a way that feels good to me.
Yeah.
And you don't want me to do it my way. You want me to do it your way. So I
Yeah.
didn't feel like there was a lot of space given. It was, and I mean, I understand. Doctors and nurses, they're giving me an educated opinion.
Yeah.
And still it's just a guess.
Yes.
I feel like there needs to be more trust in the patient being able to choose what feels right for them.
Yeah.
Like, have more trust that we know what to do for our bodies. Have trust that I can make a decision that feels good, and I don't have to do a lumpectomy with radiation or chemo and radiation and a mastectomy. Like, I don't need to do all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I really trusted my gut and my intuition through that time in my life.
Yeah.
And I think that doctors and nurses need to allow us to trust ourselves.
Yeah. So I think what you're hitting on is, and this is something I've learned, is how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
And letting so here's all the facts, here's what I know, here's what we're looking at. How do you feel about that? And leaving space for that conversation. I feel like I need some time to think about this. I feel like I might be on board with chemo. Radiation's a question mark for me. And letting there be room for nuance, letting there be room for, I know my body, like you say, or you said, I know my body, and I just don't know if that's the best choice for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think this is where we're holding this conversation because the whole system needs an overhaul.
Yeah.
And so when it gets its overhaul, because it's going to, um, that these are the things that we implement to make it better.
Yeah.
What I feel like I've seen on my end is there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of, we talk about research and we talk about the outcomes, and we're in the traditional sense of Western medicine. We talk about the science-based outcomes. But as you get to know people and you get to know the nuances of people, you realize there's just so many different ways to achieve the outcome, right?
Yeah.
And even myself, when I was in nursing school and we were going over the chemotherapy treatments and what cancer diagnosis look like and what it's like to treat it, I mean, I was like, dang, I would have to have a really good reason to put myself through that. Like I had that feeling, and I would have to think really hard, and I would have to weigh my pros. I mean, there would have to be a whole thing about it. So, I think, unfortunately, doctors, nurses, practitioners come to the table in some settings, like you're talking about, with a lot of fear. Like
Yeah.
if I don't tell them the course that's best for them, and they don't follow it, and they die, then that's on me, and I'll get sued. You
Right.
know.
Yeah.
But there's a way to have that conversation where it releases the practitioner of responsibility and it builds a bridge in the relationship.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Here's the information. You know yourself best. Let's come back and talk about it and a plan that works best for you.
Yeah.
It's really that simple, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah, because I feel like because I was already doing the things that I wanted to do. I was doing the Reiki, I was doing the acupuncture, I was doing like all of these things.
Right.
And I think if it could have been approached in, tell us what feels good to you, what's the right decision for you,
Yeah.
rather than I remember it felt like I was like sitting in the room and they were all standing over me trying to like make me make this decision. And, I just feel like if it could have been a conversation of, what's your goal? What do you want to happen?
Yeah.
What feels good to you? These are the options we have. But then also including, these are the holistic options that we have, because they have a binder they give you that has the holistic options in it, but they don't really talk about it very much.
Yeah.
Right? They talk more about the chemo and the mastectomy and all of these medical things, rather than like, there's options for acupuncture here. There's options for Reiki. There's options for, these different methods. I don't feel like that was talked about enough. Yeah. And that's, where I was coming from. I was already a life coach. I'd already spent a lot of time learning Eastern philosophy. Like that felt really good to me. I don't feel like they took time to get to know that.
Yeah.
And,
if they would have just seen, or if they would have just asked, tell me a little bit about yourself, and you're like, I'm a life coach, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put that in my little file folder and pull from that and say, well, because you're a life coach and you do yoga and is this a path that is better for you? Or, like you said, so you said it perfectly, because I'm just having some like aha moments, and it's like, just because we're not talking about it with our practitioners, our Western medical professionals, doesn't mean we're not getting the Reiki, the acupuncture, and what I'm hoping to do is, like, let's say it all has a place, and gosh, like, you're to me the ideal client that's like, or patient that says, I'm going to do visualization, and all the things stacked up. The more you can have stacked up in the energy that you were putting it in, the better. Like, I would have been your greatest cheerleader, like, keep doing it, girl.
Well, and I think that doctors, I know we are powerful human beings.
Yeah.
We can absolutely heal our bodies without all of these things, and we're not told that, first of all.
Yeah.
And we're not given that option to heal ourselves. And I think, even when I went in, after I got pregnant with my second son, when I went to my doctor and I told her I was pregnant, she was like, and because she'd been through everything with me. She
Yeah.
knew, my story. And she asked me when I got there, she's like, so how did you get pregnant? IVF? I was like,
Mm.
no, I manifested this baby. And she was like, what? But I was like, I manifested it. And then even when I went and did my 20-week ultrasound, they were like typing in the thing IVF. And I was like, why'd you type that in? She's like, oh, you got pregnant through IVF. I was like, no, I did not. I
Wow.
manifested this baby. I did it. Like, so that proves to me
Wow.
I have such a big power in healing my body,
Yeah.
because my body was messed up after all of those meds being put in it, and
Yeah.
goserelin and, all of these things. I had the power and the strength to heal my body because I did these, manifestation, meditation, belief, Reiki, all of those things to help me
Right.
heal my body. That's how I got pregnant, not from the medical side,
Right.
you know?
Um, well, yeah. So as we're talking about bridging the gap, being a life coach, I've been on my own journey, so I've had my own, I guess, experience with having to do my own work. And
Sure.
honestly, being a life coach, being taken down an existential life crisis is
Yeah,
kind of what brought me to the tools I have today to interact with my patients and clients differently.
totally.
And so, what are some of the things that you teach in your life coaching that would be beneficial to providers, um, practitioners, providers in the medical field, that might help with this bridging the gap?
I think I would teach them a lot of the things that I teach my clients just to get them on board. And I have clients that are doctors, and I teach them these things, and it has changed their lives in beautiful ways.
Mm,
Taking time to meditate every day, especially if you're a doctor and you're in a high stress job, like that is, you're seeing really hard things.
yeah,
And if you can take 12 minutes a day to sit in silence and meditate and come back to yourself, like that is going to bring your overwhelm from here down.
yeah,
And that's going to be good for you, but it's also going to be good for your patients because then you can be more present in the moment with them.
yeah,
So I love teaching meditation. I love talking about manifestation. I love having the conversation of listen and hear people and be present when they're speaking, because we're so busy, right? Where somebody's talking to us and we're on our phone or we're like in our head somewhere else. It's like teaching them presence.
yeah. Isn't
And
that's something I've observed a lot, even as the patient or as I'm taking my family members to these their own medical appointments. I am so hyper attuned now to people who have presence and people who don't.
yeah,
And man, does it make a difference?
yeah. And I think compassion, right? Like, I think teaching compassion and empathy, I think a lot of people go into the medical field because they do have a lot of compassion
Yeah.
and empathy, and then maybe are taught like this is the way and this is what we do and this is how it works. But somewhere along the lines, maybe the compassion and the empathy gets lost
Yep.
because it's just what you do and it's your job.
Yeah.
And I think taking time, even doing a compassion meditation, can be a powerful thing to bring you back. Because I do understand, if you are in the healthcare field, you have to build up some walls. You have to get pretty resilient to some really hard things.
Yeah.
And if you can make sure that you're taking time for yourself to heal yourself mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually,
Yeah.
that is going to be good for you, and it's also going to be good for every single one of your patients.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah, I mean, just kind of going back to the trust aspect. I mean, the system is crumbling because trust is being lost, right? So, like if we don't do something different, it's all going to go away anyway. So I think if I could rebuild the system myself, and it's really hard to do in the system we have right now,
Yeah.
but every appointment would start with a getting to know you, presence.
Yeah.
Let's take our time. Doctors do have this like expectation of pushing things through. I know like there were times before I learned my own set of skills and tools where I was thinking about 5 clients ahead of me before I was working, and I'm trying to be
Yeah.
present with this. And so just if the system could give us time to do that,
Yeah.
it would make such a big difference.
Yeah.
People would feel connected, and it would be a win-win situation because the practitioner would feel that sense of like, oh, this is why I'm doing this,
Yeah.
because I'm having that human one-to-one connection, which is why I got into this in the first place. This isn't about, can I solve your problem for you? It's
Right.
about a collaboration of, look, here's all the things that I've learned and I know. What do you think? What is
Yeah.
your body telling you?
Yeah.
Um, and then one of the other things I've learned is to listen to my clients because they know themselves the best. If, you know, whether a 30-year-old's coming to see or an 80-year-old, I'm like, they tell me this now when they tell me the situation, um, and I go, well, what do you think is the problem?
Such a good question.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that will shortcut a lot of like speculation
Yeah.
real quick, and it'll get us quicker to. And I would rather build the trust. So I'll say, well, within my scope of practice, obviously, I'll say, well, let's focus on that and see what happens. In the
Right.
meantime, we can be drawing labs. In the meantime, your doctor can be ordering tests, drawing labs, et cetera, et cetera. But I just feel like we could shortcut a lot of this if we would ask our patients what they think.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I actually, something that happened, this was last year. I had to have emergency back surgery because apparently I just have to keep showing up at the freaking
Good,
hospital.
good times.
But it was interesting. So it was a Wednesday night, maybe it was a Tuesday night, but I ended up in the emergency room because my back pain was so bad that I started losing feeling in my groin and my right leg.
Oh,
So I went
geez.
to the emergency room, and it was like all night long getting me because I was in so much pain I couldn't be in an MRI machine. Like it was just awful. So probably around 4 a.m. after being there all night, I was like on drugs. I was out of it. Somebody comes in and they say, we need to do emergency back surgery right now. And I was like, no, no. And all she did was say, fine, and walked out of the room. There was no discussion of why I needed to have the surgery. There was no compassion that I'd been there all night long and hadn't slept and wasn't even coherent because I was like high on drugs because my back hurt so bad. It was just fine. She left. So I left the hospital still in so much agonizing pain. I went to a different facility. I want to say it was that day or the next day. I can't really remember, but and I told them I didn't want to have surgery. I didn't want to do this, and they listened to me and they said, okay, well let's maybe we'll do this in a couple weeks. So they listened to me, and then I had to go back in a day later because I was still in so much pain, and they sat with me though and listened to me of like what was going on.
Right.
I did decide to have surgery that day because I was like, if I lose, I could, it could be really detrimental for how bad my disc was pressing into my spinal cord, and I did like on the MRI you couldn't even see my spinal cord.
Wow.
But they didn't show me that when I was in the emergency room, they didn't even tell me that.
Right.
I
And
had
you
a-
already have this experience prior that has built this mistrust, or you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like you didn't have the trust. You need someone to meet you
Yeah,
where
I
you're
need
at.
somebody to hear me or explain it to me.
Sure.
Explain to me why I need to have this back surgery.
Right. That's
And
very
they
good.
didn't. And
Yeah.
so days later I did eventually have the surgery, but it was because somebody sat and listened to me and let me cry and, just let me be heard and be seen. And it was such a different experience.
Right. Yeah. Makes all the difference. That they're not just a diagnosis. There's the person in front of you with all of their life experiences wrapped up into this moment that may or may not be a life-changing experience. But I just believe that every time we have a medical, emergency experience, interaction, it's a spiritual experience too. It's a existential crisis sometimes. It's
Yeah.
a emotional, spiritual, physical experience. And we can't just treat people like robots because of
Yeah.
that.
Well, and I understand, like, it's your job, and I'm still a human being.
Right. Right. That's a very reasonable ask before we
Yeah.
do emergency surgery to ask why.
Yeah.
Well, and also like who's doing my surgery, and
Yeah.
yeah, that matters. That
Yeah.
matters. So I love what you did. You were empowered and emboldened enough to say, I will excuse myself from here and we'll go somewhere where I can get the help that I deserve and
Yeah.
need. Um, and I think the more that patients and people, because we're not patients, we're people, really cry out for this and demand it and ask for it, that there will be no choice but to respond,
Yeah. That's the
right?
goal. Yeah.
Because people are, like you said, leaning on a whole different set of practitioners outside of this traditional world because they don't know what else to do and they haven't been given the options beyond that. And so, kind of bringing it back to my goal, in holistic nursing, we look at ourselves as option givers. You know, we holistic nurse equals option giver. And so it's about you, the person in front of me, and showing you the options that you have. There's a buffet. There's an endless buffet. If anyone ever says, I don't know what else to do for you,
Yeah.
go talk to somebody else because there's just an endless buffet.
There is, and I learned so much during that time. I mean, I knew the holistic world. I knew it so much better by the end of my cancer diagnosis because I was researching and I was learning. And I would have loved it if my doctors had,
Yeah.
done a little bit of that too, and they didn't. That's fine. I had to do it, but I would have loved the support in those options rather than the cynicism, I guess,
Yeah.
of, oh, that's what you're doing. It was like, this, I have proof that this works.
Yeah. Yeah. And if it brings you up and lifts you up and it's giving you hope, then why not? Like,
Yeah.
why not? Can do no
Yeah.
harm. Yeah, well, and that's a lot of the modalities that I know of are do no harm modalities. They can only move you in the right direction. So
Yeah.
I don't
Absolutely.
know. There's just a lot of ways to work with the human body, and it's not all black and white. And
Exactly. There's a lot of gray there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you got your back's feeling better.
Yeah. I mean, I walk with a limp and I don't have full feeling back, but I mean, I was in so much pain. I couldn't live with it. Like, it was
Yeah.
really, really bad.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling, I can do all the things. I can walk, I can go to yoga, so I'm grateful.
Oh, good, good, good. So, are you in remission, cancer free? What would you say you are right now?
I've always said since I had my mastectomy that I'm cancer free, that I'm a cancer survivor.
Okay.
That's my belief system. I don't feel like I've ever been told that by a doctor. They've never once said to me that I'm in remission. They've never said to me that I'm a survivor. I just decided to say it on myself.
Good for you.
So it'll be 5 years in August from when I had my mastectomy. That will be, the 5 years clean, which I believe that's when doctors start to say that you're in remission or you're a survivor. But I've always believed that. And I, again, think that because of my belief system, that has helped me to stay strong and healthy after my diagnosis and beyond. And it will continue to keep me healthy if I believe that I'm happy, healthy, healed, and whole.
Amen, sister. I love that. I love that. I think that's a perfect way to leave this conversation. And I call that integrated. We're integrated when we're healthy, complete, and whole.
Yeah.
And mind, body, emotion, spirit, right? Like the way I see healing and being our best selves is being integrated mind, body, emotion, spirit.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And that's who I'm a life coach from. It's mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. Like, it's everything because we are whole beings.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have to pick something and start chipping away at, that integration process. It's not a overnight process. I call it my lifelong journey,
Exactly. Yeah.
but it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I'm so happy you're doing so well.
Thank you so much.
And congratulations on your second baby.
Thank you. He's wonderful.
How old is he now?
He'll be 3 in August.
3, and then you have another
Yeah, my
little.
oldest son's 8.
Okay.
So, boy, mom over here.
Well, you're a true inspiration.
Thank you.
Um, I I hope that people hear this podcast with ears of curiosity and wanting to understand. What I want to understand is, how do we build the bridge? How do we build trust? And how do we do better so that the outcomes are better? But for anyone who's interested in learning more about Cori and her life coaching, you can go into our notes and you can find her bio and all of her contact information there. And then again, for our podcast, please like and subscribe and share this message with anyone who you think is maybe needing to hear it. Someone who might be feeling alone on their journey, or felt misunderstood, or maybe is wanting to do better as a practitioner and doesn't know where to start. So it's all about learning, all about being better, and I love it. So, okay, thanks again so much, Cori.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Just a reminder to like and subscribe. Please share, especially if you find a particular episode interesting and uplifting, helpful, educational, so that we can grow our channel and specifically grow the community. My goal here is to bridge the gap between Eastern and Western medicine, and ultimately let people know that they have lots of options and there's always hope and healing. Thanks so much for listening. We'll talk to you again soon.